Let today talk about the laws of God and the grace of God. I've realized that many of us we are getting a challenge to understand if we are still under the law or we are not under the law. When God gave the laws to Moses on Mount Sinai, that is Old Testament, and Jesus came and said, "I don't come to abolish the law." I've realized that maybe whoever went in theological college or you didn't attend a theological college or you are taught by an elder or something, if you miss the point, at some point, if maybe you missed to understand what it really means by being under the law of God and not living under the law, simply because Paul and others said we are not living under the law, we are living under the grace of God. This is where I want us to discuss today. Being what it means by following the laws of God and being under the law of God. The laws have never changed and they will never change. What it simply meant is Moses was given by God the 10 commandments. What do we really understand by commandments? Commandments simply means doing with the will of God. And Jesus came and taught on how to pray, on how to talk to our Father. Let your will be done here on earth as it is in heaven. The will of God simply means the commandments of God. The commandments of God, those God gave to Moses, simply meant people to do according to my will, God. Now, what it means by the time of grace, where we are living in. The time of grace does not mean that we are not living under the laws of God. The time of the grace means that Jesus Christ came not to abolish the law that God gave for people to follow, but He came to negotiate the price to be paid after breaking the law. He came to negotiate the ransom. That is why we say our price was paid by God, by Jesus Christ on the cross, through the blood. Why through the blood? Because when you, at own days, rather unknown days, when God was speaking through intermediates, through the prophets, starting with Moses, God did covenants with Abraham, and other many prophets. That time there was an intermediate between people. When you break one of the laws, one of the commandments, or any of the laws, you are to go and see a priest and offer a sacrifice so that you'll be cleansed, so that you can be cleansed and mend your relationship with God, your Creator, again. Look at it this way. We have a rich person, a wealthy person. We have a poor person here. Both of them, they are servants of Most High God. They are children of Most High God. One, the wealthy guy, the wealthy man, has got 10 children, and the other one has got the same number of children. If you break the law, you want to offer, for example, 10 goats, 10 sheep, or lambs, or calves, or cows, or bulls. Now the wealthy person can afford to offer every time when the children breaks the law. The poor person is at the corner now. And if you cannot afford to pay the ransom, what does that tell you? You will be enslaved forever. And now, because mankind, rather men, God says He saw that men their hearts were always inclined to the wickedness. So if we were to continue with the same system that He had put in place, it means at some point the relationship of God and men will be broken completely, because you shall not be able to pay the ransom anymore. Because as you can see, the preparation, the economy, everything at that time is not, you cannot compare with today. Today, even to afford 3, 4, 5 cows at home, or cattle, or sheep, or whatever, it's very challenging. So it could be so much challenging. And now Jesus came to negotiate, not to negotiate about not following the law, but to negotiate about the price that was to be paid when you break the law. Breaking the law at all the times, it is the same as committing a sin at the present day. And now, the laws are still there. If you commit a sin, now we are not paying the ransom anymore. We are not now offering sacrifice of blood anymore. Jesus is there. He was offered as the last sacrifice on the cross. He poured blood on the cross for our sake. He intervened. The ransom that is to be paid. He intervened. He negotiated the prices. So, today, if you break the law, if you commit a sin, you don't have to offer sacrifice. That's the grace I'm talking about. That's the grace the Bible is talking about. That's the grace God is speaking about. That's the grace the apostles are speaking about. That's the grace the disciples are talking about. It is about not following the law, not being under the law. It is about paying the ransom, paying the price after breaking the law, after you sin. Now what happens if you have sinned and Jesus Christ has already paid the ransom for you? Do you go scot-free? Do you just live like that now because you're in times of grace? Now that we are not paying any more sacrifices, now that we are not paying any more ransom, now that we are not slaughtering any goats any longer, do you just live with the sins like that? Do you just walk away like that? No. What happens now? That time, old days, break the law, pay the ransom. Break the law, offer sacrifice. You are cleansed. You are good to go. Today, break the law, commit a sin. Jesus has paid for you the ransom. You are no longer you are no longer offering a sacrifice. You are no longer going to someone to confess your sins. You are no longer going to a priest. But what happens today? When Jesus came and paid the ransom for you, if you commit a sin, for example, you kill, you are to pay the ransom, you are cleansed. Today you kill, you don't pay the ransom. Jesus has paid it for you. But the consequences of the action you have just done, the sin you have committed, adultery, killing, coveting, whatever lies, you yourself, you are going to suffer the consequences. You yourself. Now the consequences is death, is sickness, whatever consequences, yourself you are going to suffer. You yourself personally, the consequences of your sins. That is why today people are translating as if it is the time of grace more easier to live in than the olden days. But I'm telling you, the olden days are better, because the olden days were the ones were like everything is physical. You know you have sinned, you go to a priest, you pay whatever you are paying, then you are cleansed. But it was also expensive, because maybe if you don't have, it will be a problem. You stay unclean. But today, if you commit a sin, you don't go to a priest because Jesus simply paid your ransom. So what happens? You stay there with your consequences, with your um, um, guilt, and at the end of the day, you end up dying because of the consequence, because of the sin you committed, because of the crime you committed, simply because you lack knowledge to understand that even if you are not being punished physically, you are being punished spiritually. Your life will start to go haywire simply because of something you did and you didn't have knowledge that you are still living under the law of God. What Jesus Christ negotiated is the price. So you are there struggling with your sins, struggling with the mistake you make, struggling with the breaking of the law of God, and being punished spiritually, punishing your own self, but you don't understand. That is why God now says, my people perish because of lack of knowledge. He didn't come to abolish the law. He just came to negotiate the price after breaking the law. And if now you don't understand that part, then it means you just take this time as time of grace, you break the laws, you live the way you, anyhow, you commit whatever you live according to whatever you want, how you want to live, and the consequences are there. You end up suffering because you lack understanding. Because someone has just told you, we are in time of grace, we are not in the times of the law. So you are there thinking, we are not under the law any longer, we are under the time of grace. And this period of grace, it's very more dangerous. It's better when someone punishes you directly, you sort one-on-one, than when someone punishes you indirectly without your knowledge. That is what happens today, in this time of grace. If you break the law, nobody is pushing you. Nobody is after you. Nobody physically is telling you you have done this mistake. Then, the same mistake you have done, you suffer consequences. Your own self, that is why it is said, people with their own wisdom and knowledge, they will destroy themselves. Because now you no longer have a priest stand there